Hello and welcome to the Avrum Rosensweig Show.
Welcome to one of the internet's best podcasts, where we dive deep into the lives of the extraordinary and fascinating people who leave an indelible mark on our world. Join us as we explore their captivating stories, remarkable achievements, and unique perspectives that shape history and inspire generations. Get ready to embark on a journey through the lives of inspiring people unlike any other.
Hi, folks, and welcome to the show. My name is Avrum Rosensweig, and I'm delighted to be here. My guest today is Mustapha Ezzarghani. How are you, Mustapha?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Absolutely. Let me introduce you formally so my viewers and people who listen to the show have a sense of who you are. Today on the podcast, I'm honored to welcome Mustapha Ezzarghani. He's an Arab, a Muslim, a Moroccan, a political activist, a community organizer, and he is originally from Marrakech, Morocco. Mustapha Moroccan is a political analyst and peace activist, co-founder and president of the Moroccan-Israel Friendship Association. It's a voice for dialogue and shared visions for the future, and a leader in diplomacy and cultural exchange. MIFA is an American organization that promotes the fostering of ties between the Kingdom of Morocco and the State of Israel. Since MIFA's establishment in 2020, Mustapha has led multiple initiatives to strengthen economic and educational ties between the two countries at a grassroots level. He's someone who lives at the intersection of experience and reflection, a thinker shaped not only by ideas, but by lived reality. His story opens windows into questions many of us wrestle with, but rarely slow down enough to look at: identity and belonging, faith and doubt, tradition and change, responsibility and freedom. What makes this conversation especially powerful is Mustapha's willingness to speak honestly, without slogans, without simplification, about the forces that shape Israel, the Jewish people, Morocco, and their relationship. He doesn't offer easy answers. He offers presence, insight, and the courage to sit with complexity. In a time when conversations are often reduced to headlines and positions, Mustapha invites us into something deeper. He invites us into a human encounter, one that asks us not just to listen, but to reflect on our own assumptions, our own stories, and the worlds we carry inside of us. Mustapha said, go into a debate wanting to be convinced. Be an active listener. I'm grateful to share this conversation with you. Welcome, Mustapha.
Thank you so much. An introduction. You set the bar very high.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate you saying that.
Thank you.
I'm sure you'll be able to climb over the bar. You're pretty prolific in your own way. I have to ask you something. I have many Moroccan friends, Jewish friends.
Okay.
And prior to setting up this interview, a lot of my friends would email me or text me, and they would say, do you know this guy? I said, no, I don't, but I want to interview him. And then I was in touch with you. I must tell you that you, through your work and through your online interviews and dialogues and monologues, you've made an impression on many, many Moroccan Jews. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, I got calls from my personal friends Moroccan Jews who live in Israel and who still live in Morocco, thanking me and encouraging me to keep going. But I didn't know that I had an impression on the vast population of the Moroccan Jews in Israel and abroad. So thank you so much for the insight.
Well, thank you. You're welcome. And thank you from the collective us. I think the reason why we are so thankful that you're out there and that you're speaking loudly about the potential for Moroccan-Israeli relations and a better understanding of one another is because we feel very much alone in the world. You know, you said in an interview that Israelis are being watched, and by extension, Jews are being watched. Everything we do, everything we say, every action, you know, that we're part of both in Israel and in the diaspora. And it feels very, very lonely to be in this position. So, as I said, when you speak loudly and confidently about the beauty of the Jewish people and the great potential of relationship between Morocco and Israel, we feel just a little bit less alone.
Well, I'm glad that I can bring my perspective to light and help people, both Muslims and non-Muslims, Moroccans, Arabs, and even people in the West, Westerners, see the conflict, see Israel, see the Jews from a different lens, from a lens of an Arab Muslim who learned about the Jews and learned about Israel throughout his journey to learn about himself and to learn about his real identity and to learn about his own fate. I found that that is very, very unique perspective that it's usually not talked about, not addressed in social media, in even in books, in academia, is how Israel was presented to us, how the Jews were presented to us as Muslim Arabs in the last 7, 8 decades. What did we learn about the Jews from our textbooks, from our media, from our imams, and how at one point I decided to challenge everything I have learned throughout my life and re-educate myself and come to conclusions that were very hard to accept, but it provided me with moral clarity.
Mustapha, you said in one of your interviews once again that when you were younger, quote unquote, you felt, and many people, many Moroccans felt, that Jews were like little Hitlers who were coming to kill Arab people. Why did you feel that way? Why did you think that? Where did that come from?
Well, mostly from the media. I still remember this summer of 2023 when during the second Intifada. My dad was watching Al Jazeera 24 hours 7. He will 24 hours 7 days a week. He will watch Al Jazeera until he can't battle sleep anymore. He will fall to sleep and then wake up to listening to more news about what's going on in the Middle East.
Yes.
And of course, during this time, every time I'm sitting next to my dad, I will be consuming hours and hours of Al Jazeera propaganda. I was 14 years old at the time, and by the way, this is the first time I'm talking about this to anyone. I was 14 years old at the time, and I still remember watching Al Jazeera and how it was presenting suicidal bombers as a hero, as heroes, as someone who are defending Islam and defending the Arab identity and killing the enemy who is, after they are done with the Palestinian, they will be coming for us. This is how this was presented to me as a kid. Mm-hmm. And for a moment, I felt that I was envy of that person who just bombed himself and killed innocent people. For a moment, as a teenager, I wanted to be him. Mm-hmm. I wanted to be that hero. For few minutes, Al Jazeera turned me to a radical terrorist. And I'm sure that was not an experience that I was the only one that went through. I am sure that millions of teenagers along the Arab and Muslim world has felt the exact same way.
With that, I'm always fascinated, Mustapha, by our DNA, where we come from, how we're raised, the beauty of the people who we come from, and maybe some of their foibles as well. Tell me about your mom and dad.
My mom is very simple Moroccan mom. Um, she dedicated her life to staying home and taking care of my dad and taking care of me and my brothers and sisters. She's a very loving mother, like any Moroccan mom. My dad, he passed away 4 years ago.
I'm
He
sorry.
was one of the most um, pronounced storytellers worldwide.
Yes.
He was on national TV, was on the national radio, he was on CNN. Um, he's a very famous storyteller. And of course, I've heard a lot of stories from him. I've heard a lot of stories about um, Moroccan Jews, about the Jews who were living in Marrakech, our neighbors. I've heard a lot of beautiful coexistence, beautiful shared society stories from my dad. Of course, that was always a contradiction. There was always a contradiction between the beautiful stories that you hear about the Moroccan Jews and how they were an essential element of building the Moroccan identity, the Moroccan culture, and what you hear about Israelis. There was a disconnect in our mind. There's also there is always a difference between our Moroccan Jews and Israelis. You are a very good Moroccan Jew until you decide to identify as an Israeli, and then that's when a lot of things change. That's when the lens you are looked at you are looked at through will immediately change for a lot of people, unfortunately. And this was something that helped me challenge what I've heard, what I have learned about what learned about Israel and the Israelis. I asked myself at one point, if all our stories with the Moroccan Jews are positive, how come the moment they decided or the moment they left Morocco
Yes.
and went to Israel, they had become the devil? It's the exact same stories. It's Jews from Morocco, Jews from Algeria, Jews from Iraq, Jews from Egypt, Syria, and Europe. It's the exact same story. Why the Jews were just fine when they were part of other nations, and the moment they decide to create their own or to go back to their homeland and create their own, all of a sudden they are the devil. This is a question that I asked myself as a teenager, and that led me to learn more about Jewish history. Once I learned about the Jewish history, I realized how important Israel is. I actually was surprised why Israel didn't exist long before 1948. It is a necessity for the Jews. And if the establishment of Israel had happened hundreds of years before when it happened, I think a lot of Jews would have been just fine and been saved and been protected and been secured. And a lot of terrible experience would have been avoided.
Mhm. You said that the miscalculation or the misunderstanding that Arabs have about Jews and Israelis and Israel is that they don't understand that we have one country and that we go to that country and we build that country for survival. And you said something which was very prolific that I read, which I thought was wonderful, that when somebody is fighting for survival, you will not beat them.
No, you won't. You have nowhere to go. A lot of Arabs and Muslims can't understand or wouldn't understand that the Zionist movement is a refugee movement.
Yes.
How come Mushi, who was a Moroccan Jew living in Marrakech, looking exactly like me, dressing exactly like me, going to his shop every day, and then playing his Moroccan music, in his free time, he plays a Moroccan oud. At certain point, him and his family moved to Israel. Once he settled in Israel, he turned to the world and he found out that he was accused that he's a European white colonialist. How come? How come Arabs are calling these Jews who lived with them, who spoke the language, who built the culture, they are calling them colonialists? It's fascinating. These are the same people that we kicked out of their countries. We forced them out from Baghdad, from Cairo, from Damascus. Where were they supposed to go? If there wasn't an Israel, where were they supposed to go?
Yes.
Europe wasn't a happy place as well. The West wasn't opening its arms. So when you say that you are an anti-Israel or anti-Zionist, you have to answer this question. The hundreds and hundreds of thousands of Jews, Arab Jews, that you pushed out of their countries, where were they supposed to go if there was no Israel? Arab hostility to Jews didn't start with the establishment of Israel. If we look at Baghdad, there were persecutions of the Jews years before the establishment of Israel. So when I hear I'm not an anti-Jews, I'm not an anti-Semite, I'm just anti-Zionist, that's the biggest joke I've ever heard. Jews were not happy in Baghdad, in Damascus, in Cairo, even before the establishment of Israel.
Yes.
Israel came as a Zionist project to protect the Jews from the situation that you were already living in. Nothing has changed after the establishment of Israel. Of course, there was an exception to some extent in Morocco, but for the rest of the Arab countries, it was not heaven at all.
You tell Mustapha, you tell a really beautiful story about going into the mountains in Morocco to visit a family whom you knew. They were Berbers.
Yes.
And they were poor. And
Yes.
they walked barefoot.
Yes.
And you went there, and like every great Moroccan mom, the woman, regardless of how much she had or did not have, she created you a wonderful little feast.
Absolutely.
Right? Right?
Absolutely.
Like great salad cuite or something, you know. And you asked her, how are things? And she said, not so great. My daughter's not well. She needs open heart surgery. Do you want to pick up on this story?
Yeah. So her daughter was playing, and I started playing with her, joking around. And she told me that her daughter already had an open heart surgery and she's recovering just fine. And they said, what kind of surgery? And then she explained. But I knew that those kind of surgeries at the time weren't available in Morocco. Usually people go to Spain or to France to do those kind of surgeries. And it's very expensive to be able to afford a surgery like this. And as I can see, the family is very poor. So the question that came to my mind, how were they able to afford the open heart surgery for their daughter? So I asked her, like, was that expensive for you? Like, how did that happen? And then she said, well, I mean, I didn't even know that my daughter needed like, or had a problem with her heart. It's this Israeli Moroccan Jew who lives in Israel, but he comes to visit the town from time to time because that's where his um, grandparents are from. So he has a house over there, and he will come once or twice a year to visit the town. And he's a doctor, so he saw the daughter, and he thought that there was something wrong with her, and he talked to the family and say, "Hey, your daughter needs to see a doctor." Of course, he didn't have the means, so he took the daughter and her mom and her dad from the mountains, drove them to Marrakech to a doctor office. She went through all the necessary um, labs and MRIs and all of that, and she was diagnosed. She had a diagnosis, and the found out that she needed an open heart surgery. And then he contacted someone in Israel, and the mom and the daughter was able to go get the surgery done in Israel. For me, this was a shock. Israelis do good things too. That's a shock. I was like, "What? You went to Israel?" And the mom was like, "Yeah, I was there for 6 months." I was like, "How did they treat you?" And she said, "You treat me very well. You were so nice." And I asked her, "Did they have problem because you wear the hijab, you wear the burqa?" She said, "No. Some of the nurses also wear burqa." For me, this is incredible. Like, she's blowing my mind. What? There are ladies wearing hijab in Israel? She said, "Yes.
Yes.
Some of the nurses that took care of my daughter were wearing hijabs, and you were Muslims." I mean, I never heard this before. This was an eye opener. And this lady living in the middle of nowhere has no agenda to lie to me. She has no agenda to tell that Israelis are nice, to tell that Israel treated her well. So that was a shock. That was, I would say, the beginning of me questioning everything I've learned about Israelis and about the Jews. Absolutely. Usually people would say that I discovered the real Israel when I had the opportunity to go to Europe or to America or to Canada or to Australia or to Israel. I discovered the real Israel in the smallest village in the Atlas Mountains in Morocco.
Yes.
That's incredible.
It's a beautiful story. The organization you're probably speaking of is Save a Child's Heart.
Exactly. And last year I was able to visit them in Israel, and I was able to meet with the director of the organization, and I told her my story, and she started crying
Excellent.
when I told her the story. So it was a very, very moving moment because I get to visit them. I saw the kids. I saw the African doctors that you were training, because they don't
Yes.
they don't only bring kids and do the surgery. They bring doctors and train them so that they can go back to their country and do the surgery in their home countries.
So, just to highlight that for a moment, I myself started a Jewish humanitarian organization in Canada a number of years ago, and we worked all over the world in places like Haiti, Guyana, Zimbabwe, in Turkey, etc. These were after natural disasters and helping people on the ground with medical care. We worked very closely with the Israelis, and we would often go into countries that were Muslim and that were very antagonistic towards Israel and often the Jewish people. Yet we went and we worked together with them. And I think the question that I always asked myself, and this is a good time to deal with it, is there are people in these countries, including Pakistan, where we worked, who you tell them, "Oh, I'm Israeli, I'm a Jew." They'll go, "Bless you. I love the Israeli people. I love the Jewish people, like you." And then there are others who have been helped by Save a Child's Heart, and then they committed to go back as terrorists and hurt the Israeli people, despite the fact that an Israeli, a Jewish doctor, saved their child. Mustapha, why are some like this and some like this?
Wow. So that's a very good question, and this is one of the main issues that I'm trying to um, address, both in my videos and my social media, and in a book that I'm writing. I'm almost done with it. It's the Arab identity versus an identity of a Pakistani or an Afghani or a Muslim from an Asian country. The Arab identity in the middle of the 20th century was stolen. It was manipulated. It was reduced to be identified as an anti-Israeli identity.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that I very much struggle with. The rise of the Arab nationalism in the mid 20th century forced the Arab identity on communities in Arab countries or Muslim countries that you weren't even Arab. They forced them to identify themselves as Arab and forced them, therefore, to identify themselves as anti-Israel. Because being an Arab and being an anti-Israel is, by definition, go hand in hand. You can't be an Arab that is not anti-Israel. It's part of your identity. If it's not, we have made Israel the center of our Arab identity. So when, as you said, when you bring an Arab to Israel for open heart surgery and they go back to their countries and they sell themselves still an anti-Israeli, they have that still that hatred in their heart, it's because they couldn't find another identity. That's the identity that they were given. That's what they need to adopt to survive in their own community, to be who they are. Asking them to drop the hate is asking them to re-identify who they are. And it's very hard. It's hard for them to do that, to challenge that identity, and it's hard for them to go against the community where they are living. So, therefore, they decided to give up to the definition that was given to them. And they decided to fit in the society instead of challenging it, because that's just the easier choice. Hating Jews, hating Israelis is the easiest choice to survive as an Arab in an Arab country. Not questioning the anti-Israelism, questioning the society anti-Semitic beliefs is touching something very holy and sacred. And it's a sign that you are rebelling against your own people. And what I'm trying to, the battle that I'm trying to fight is that we don't have to hold on to that identity anymore. We're bigger than that. We're way bigger than that. We have hundreds and hundreds of years of civilizations as Arab. We have philosophers, we have poets, we have musicians, we have beautiful poetry and beautiful music. We have beautiful history. We need to go back to it and learn from it who we are. Reducing us to an anti-Israel entities is demeaning for us before it is dangerous to Israel or to the rest of the world. I refuse as an Arab to be identified as a hater. I refuse that in the last 8 decades, we didn't have a common project. What's our common project as Arabs in the region? What's our common scientific, economical uh, uh, project? What's our cultural renaissance project? We don't have one.
Mhm.
Our common project that unified us for 8 decades is destroying Israel. That's our biggest, or should I say smallest, dream that we hanged out, that we hold on to it for the last 80, 90 years. And it's very sad that that's the choice that we have made, to build our identity around the destruction of this very, very small group living in this very, very, very small country in the desert in the Middle East. It's it's very sad. So to go back to your question, it's an identity question. We need another Arab identity that these people can go back to, that these people can claim. And that's what I'm trying to do through my work, is to educate Arabs that they have an alternative identity. You don't have to stick to the ones that Nasser and Saddam and Assad created for them. They have, if they learned about their history, you will find a more fitting, a stronger, more beautiful identity that they can claim, that will change the future of them and generations yet to come.
So when you're standing in front of a Muslim crowd, an Arab crowd, and you're espousing this thought, how do you express your vision then for what the Arab world can in fact look like? What should you be drawing upon from the Arab, the Muslim personality, character, essence, and what sort of society would you have them create? What would it look like?
I will just give the Moroccan society as an example. As an example, not a perfect example, but is an example as a starting point. We in Morocco have a leader, our king, and even his father and his grandfather, that leaders that refused to identify the country as a country of, as an anti-Israel country, as an anti-Jews country. We are always accepting of the others. Morocco is where Africa and the Arab world and Europe meet. It's very it's very accepting society. Also, the Islam version of Morocco is an Islam of acceptance. We had also always refused foreign identities. That doesn't mean that we were always successful in that rejection. At certain point, Wahhabism and the Muslim Brotherhood was able to penetrate to our societies, or to our society in Morocco. But our immune system, self-immune system, is still working, and our leadership has always worked very hard to reject those ideas, to protect the society from those ideas, to protect the Moroccan identity, the Moroccan Islam that is built on Sufism path and built on accepting the others and see God in the image of every person that you meet in the street. I will start from that. I will start from inviting Arabs, inviting Muslims around the world to come join a party where Jews and Muslim Moroccans are getting together and singing together and dancing together. And tell them that if you believe that it's impossible for Muslims and Jews to live together in peace, please come visit Morocco. I'm going to Morocco in a few weeks, and I will be meeting a group of Moroccan Jews in Marrakech. We're throwing a party together, celebrating our Moroccan
Moroccan hood. You're Moroccan.
Moroccanhood. Exactly. Thank you so much. Yes, celebrating our Moroccanhood, our commonalities. Um, so to answer your question, I will always give my country, my society as an example for that. The
So,
Moroccan, and just I want to address this. Moroccan Jews in Morocco weren't a community that lived in the ghettos of history, lived outside the Moroccan culture and Moroccan society and Moroccan history. The Moroccan Jews are an essential element to who we are as Moroccans. It's an essential element to our identity. Everything that people around the world know about Morocco and admire about Morocco, the food, the music, the architecture, the fashion, it has a Jewish signature. The Jews helped build that. And that's why they were never able to um, forget about it, because it's theirs, it's their production. The Moroccan culture is a production of the Moroccan Jews as well.
it's fascinating what you're saying, but I think it's appropriate to add to it that, like every character and every personality, a national character and national personality, there's two sides to the face. On one hand, during the war, the Moroccan king was approached by the Nazis and said, "Give us your Jews." And his response was, "There are no Jews here, only Moroccan citizens."
Absolutely. That was Muhammad V, the
Right,
king. Yes.
right. And then after 1948, there were riots in Morocco, and many, 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 many Moroccan Jews left. In fact, ultimately by the 60s, the community in Morocco now is not that big.
Yes.
After October 7th, your former Prime Minister Abdallah Ben Khairan, he said that it's a moment to be emulated and used openly, to use that anti-Semitic language against the Jewish people in Israel. On the flip side, you have a fellow by the Ahmed Sharai who wrote an article, Sharai, "We are all Israelis."
Yes.
So you have this duplicity going on within Morocco. On one hand, it's very much of what you're saying. There's an embrace of the Jewish people and very often Israel. On the other hand, there's a hatred towards it.
Yes. I will start with pushing the Jews to leave their country. And I would say to my fellow Moroccans, to my fellow Arabs, that prosecuting the Jews and pushing them to leave their Arab countries is one of the biggest moral failure in our recent history. We thought that we were hurting Israel. We were hurting ourselves. We were hurting our societies. If this moral failure is the only reason why we should be supportive of Israel, that would be enough. Just to make up for this mistake is enough. I know that there are other, like, billion other reasons to support Israel. But just to make up for these mistakes, the hundreds of thousands of Jews that we kicked out of their own countries, and we forced them out, and we turned them from landowners to refugees is more than enough for us to support their new state, their new nation called Israel. So that's number one. Number two, in all the nations of the world, in all countries, for some reason that I haven't understand yet, maybe you can help me understand, the Jews were always very useful. If you want to win the elections, insult the Jews. If you want to be popular, force the Jews out. If you want to, if you want your propaganda to win in the society where you are, just take it on the Jews. And this is exactly what Abdel ibn Kiran is doing. He's evil enough to throw anti-Semitic statement that aligns exactly with Hamas. It aligns exactly with the Muslim Brotherhood. It aligns exactly with a member of ISIS would say, in order to gain votes after the recent failure that his party has faced in Morocco. It's okay to sacrifice his morality, his humanity, in order to use the political heated moment and emotional state that the Moroccans are going through during the war to win the next elections. This is exactly what he was doing. On the other hand, Shrai has no propaganda. Ahmed Shrai doesn't run for elections. He's speaking from his conscience as a human being, as a journalist. That's the difference between these two. When you have an agenda and the Jews are useful, you use them. When you have a political agenda and anti-Semitism is useful, you use it. And just to be clear, that's not the worst that Ibn Kiran said. I have his videos, I have his statement, I have other horrible, horrible statement from members of his political party. In my opinion, Ibn Kiran and his party is a reflection of the Egyptian Muslim brotherhoods in Morocco. And his agenda and his propaganda is very dangerous for Morocco first, before it can be dangerous for Israelis and Israel. So, as I told you, we are in a battle within our own societies. And by the way, I wrote an article on Times of Israel called "Yes, We Are All Israelis."
Yes, I saw that.
Supporting Ahmed Shrai's first article because he was being attacked by Ibn Kiran, by the Islamists in Morocco in a way that was unimaginable. So in support of that, I wrote a piece. I'm inviting your viewers to go take a look at this piece. I also, during this article, if I still remember, I think that's in a different article, I also addressed the great failure of our intellects in the Arab world to address October 7th and to talk about October 7th. In fact, there is a letter of condemnation to Israel that was signed by hundreds of intellects all around the Muslim and Arab world, and they included it in my article that I wrote for Time of Israel that was written and signed, guess when? October 8th. October 8th. They are condemning Israel on October 8th. Hamas soldiers were still in Israel. Were still fighting, the IDF was still fighting Hamas within its borders. And Israel was condemned. If this is not a moral failure and a loss of a loss of our humanity. I don't know what.
Mustafa, in my community, when I say that I feel there are more Muslim voices, more Arab voices speaking up, not only on behalf of Israel and the Jewish people, but encouraging their own people to take responsibility for their lives and not use the narrative, we hate Israel, we hate Jews, that's who we are, as you mentioned before. But tell me what the reality is. Are you alone out there? Or when you go into crowds, are there a lot of people come up to you, go, Mustafa, I'm Muslim, I'm Arab, I'm a Sufi, like you are, and I'm with you on this, brother. We need to start growing. We need to start developing our own character as a people, as a religion, as a nation. How alone or not alone are you?
I'm not alone. I can tell you that. I'm not alone. People might still confuse, you might still need more education, but people are asking questions, and that's all we can ask for. We are not asking people to be pro-Israel or pro-Palestine or love the Jews or hate the Jews. Just ask questions. Read. Don't take information just as it is. Filter it. Try to read behind the lines. Try to understand why someone is saying what they are saying. Try to be human. Try to look at other human beings like they are human beings. That's what we're asking people to do. We're trying to build critical thinking among Arab youth. But I can tell you that I'm not alone. I mean, thousands of Moroccans are coming to the conclusion that the Palestinian cause is one of our biggest lies that we told ourselves in the last 9 decades. It's the anti-Israel agenda is the excuse that we used for everything. We dealt with dictatorship because of Israel. You can't talk about democracy. We're under attack. You can't talk about the failure of our economy. And when I say we, I'm talking about Arab nations, not Morocco. We can't talk about our economic failure because we're under attack. In order to have dignity against the enemy that the leaders created for us, we had to give up our freedom. We had to give up our future and the future of our children. In my view, the number one victim of the anti-Israel propaganda is Arabs and Muslims. We were shut down. We were not allowed to talk against our leaders. We were denied democracy. We were denied strong democratic institutions. We were denied innovation. We were denied a cultural renaissance in the name that we are in war with Israel. And what was Israel doing? It was building democracy. It was building a very alive society. They were innovating. They were building universities. They were educating their children. And they did this while under attack. They had never compromised democracy for the excuse that they are in war with the Arabs, that they are under attack. It's the opposite. Every attack that was launched on them, they took it as a challenger to their democracy, to their belief in democracy and their democratic institutions.
Yes.
Our wars against them straightened them even further than they were. And it weakened us. And that's the sad truth.
Yes, you said that the intifadas didn't work. Terrorism didn't work. The boycotts haven't worked. And you said, let's find out what does work to bring us closer, but more so for you to establish your national and your religious essence and character. One of the questions that I ask many of my guests is throughout history, not only in the Muslim and the Arab world, but in Europe, most recently in the continent of Australia, in South America, anti-Semitism has always been rampant. It has ebbs and flows. But the question that I would like to ask you, Mustapha, my friend, is why are the Jewish people hated so much?
That's a question that I was hoping that you help me with answer.
Well, what do you think when you think about that?
I think that they have the perfect characteristics to be hated. They are a small community, and they are not interested in becoming bigger. They kept to themselves. You weren't a power seeker, but you were very successful. So if you are a political leader living in a country and you have a crisis and you are looking around on whom to blame it on, you look at them, they're very successful. That means that they are envied by others. They want to keep to themselves in their community. And all they are asking for is not to be bothered. So I feel like it's always useful to blame it on the Jews. Let them pay for it. Because you can't come to a failed community in your country and say that they are the problem. The problem is that the Jews were hard workers. They are always striving. They are always building something. And that wasn't liked by a lot of people. That wasn't liked by a lot of nations, a lot of countries. So yes, so it's like it's the perfect recipe. These people are very successful and they are weak, vulnerable, and they can blame them for anything they want. And people will believe me. I think that's what happened in Europe and in a lot of Arab countries.
Tell me something. Does your mother know what you do?
Yes, and she is very supportive. She shared my videos on her Facebook.
On her, is your mom a progressive person?
Not in the term progressive. She's a very modest Moroccan mom, but she is very supportive of her son, I would say. And keep in mind that my mom was the generation that grew up playing with Jewish girls in her neighborhood.
Yes.
That she grew up, when she comes back home and her mom is not home, she was always told to go to the Jewish family's house and wait for her mom until she comes back. So she had a strong personal experience, positive experience with the Moroccan Jews. So it's really hard to convince her that the Jews are anything but wonderful people.
And your siblings? Nice big
I have siblings that they were affected by what you see on Al Jazeera and affected by the Wahhabism reach that has hit Morocco recently. And I would say that they very strongly disagree with me. And we had hours and hours long of conversations, and we still disagree on lots. Um, and I consider myself to be reasonable people. I always give a chance to anyone to convince me otherwise. But as long as you can convince me, I will stick to my opinion. But yeah, so I have I have siblings that are very much against what I'm doing.
Are you in love?
What do you mean?
Or do you have a partner?
Yes, I have a wife. I have two daughters, Sophia and Maya, 7 years old and 3 years old,
Nice.
and that's my life.
How does your
That's
wife
my
feel about what you do for a living?
she's very supportive. She's very supportive. She's a very progressive. She's an American. I'm an American Catholic.
Yes.
And by the way, my two daughters, they are Muslims, but they have a Jewish cousin.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my wife's brother, his wife is Jew, and they are
Yes.
raising their kid as a Jew. So whenever we get together, and we live in the same town, um, whenever we live together, we get together. We form a family of the three Abrahamic religion.
Oh,
My
nice.
wife and her family are Catholics.
Nice.
Me and my kids are Muslims, and then we have Catherine and her daughter are Jews. So it makes sense when you see my lifestyle, why I'm standing for all this, and excuse my French, all this bullshit we are watching in the media.
Yes. And just to add to that, when one studies your history, your resume, it was amazing for me to read that you created the first interfaith conference in Morocco,
Yes.
and you had
Yes.
rabbis there, right? You had
Oh, yes.
ministers there.
Yes. Rabbis from
It's
all over the world.
wonderful what you did, Mustafa.
Absolutely. And 2014, I was what? Like 22 years old?
We're a kid.
I was a kid. Even the Moroccan officials didn't take me seriously.
Yes.
I was like, what this kid is doing? Like he's just like the moment he want to be a community activist, he's choosing this topic and he's inviting all these international personalities, and he's but it was a wonderful experience. It was a wonderful experience. I get to work with the Catholic Church in Marrakech, with the Jewish community in Marrakech, and you were a huge support for me. It was, I would say, that is one of the most beautiful work that I've done, and I'm still very proud of it until today.
And
Yeah,
I'm very proud of you too, if you don't
yeah.
mind.
And keep in mind, at the time, there was no Abrahamic Accord talking
Yeah.
about Israel is still taboo.
Yeah.
It was a very hard time to do such event in Marrakech, Morocco.
In Hebrew, we say kol hakavod. Do you know what that means?
No.
It means all the power to you.
Oh,
But
thank you.
by the way,
Thank
there's
you.
only one area that I feel very badly for you. You want to know what it is?
What is it?
Your mom's Moroccan.
Hmm.
She's a classic Moroccan mother. I used to have a restaurant and food show on the radio for 10 years. And it was said within the environment that I work through many, many restaurants that the best cooking in the world is Moroccan cooking.
Absolutely.
And then you married an American woman.
You know why? You know why?
Why?
I have an answer for that. Because I consider myself to be an excellent cook.
Are you a good cook?
Oh yeah.
Very good. That's great. That's great.
Nick, when you are in the area next time, I would love to invite you. But I consider myself to be a really, really good cook.
Okay.
So I learned from my dad. My dad was a very good cook. So he taught us that we have to learn how to cook, and we shouldn't rely on mom.
Also, the thing that I like to mention too is because I'm very much into parents, who your parents are. Your father sound like a wonderful man. Was
He
he?
is.
Was he a great dad?
He was a wonderful dad.
Yeah, was he?
He was a wonderful dad. I'm one of 10,
Mhm.
and he raised us to be a good human being, to respect the other, and to be a positive element in our societies wherever we are. He was very supportive of me marrying a Catholic woman, an
Yeah.
American Catholic woman. Um, he was also supportive of my brother who was married to a Christian British lady. He was very, very open-minded. And after this show, I'm gonna send you clips
Please,
of him telling stories and telling old stories all around the world.
please.
He was touring the world telling stories, telling the story of Morocco, the story of the Moroccan society, the story of our history, and the story of the shared society that we had with our brothers and sisters of the Jewish faith here in Morocco.
His son is a fine storyteller as well, by the way.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
What was your father's name?
Ahmed,
And what is your mother's name?
Bahija.
She should be well. I've been playing around with AI for a number of months, and I've asked it to create poems about my guests. So I have an ode to Mustapha Ezzarghani today. Would you like to hear it?
Of course.
Okay, it goes like this. He comes from Marrakech, where dust and prayer rise together, where history is not archived but breathed, in alleyways and courtyards, in names. An Arab, a Moroccan, a Muslim, not as slogans, but as lived sentences, carried carefully through the world. Once taught that Jews were monsters, that Israel was a myth with a weapon, that the story ended before it began, he says this plainly, without shame, without excuse, because truth to him is the first form of courage. Then in a village in the mountains, one room, children with bare feet and open heart, a daughter who needed surgery no one there could afford, a doctor, a Jew, a Moroccan, once gone, then returned, who built a house, built a bridge, and saved that life.
Oh,
Shock is sometimes a teacher. Unlearning can feel like grief. Mustapha began to read. He began to listen, to argue the way scholars once did, not to win, but to be convinced. Al-Razani's echo in his ear, debate is not war, it is an offering. MIFA, his organization, was born, not as an institution, but as an insistence that history does not have to repeat itself if people are willing to meet. He speaks of Israel without denying Palestine, of Jewish fear without erasing Muslim pain. He says strength is mistaken for evil, that Jews are watched simply for surviving, that Israel is treated like a guest in its own burning house. He does not shout this, he carries it. All your neighbors want you gone, he says, not as a provocation, but as a diagnosis. Iran wants you gone. Hamas wants you gone. And still, Arab voices sit in the Knesset. He asks quietly, can you imagine the reverse? Mustapha notices solidarity, hands reaching before flags, Morocco standing even while cracked. This is who sits from us, a man formed by loss, by error, by revision, a man who refuses the comfort of purity, who walks into debates wanting to change, who believes peace begins when listening and becomes an act of faith. In an age of headlines, Mustapha offers presence. In a world that is addicted to certainty, he chooses complexity, not as an answer, but as an encounter. And that's that.
wow. Thank you very much. That was beautiful.
You're
Thank you
welcome,
very
my
much.
friend. You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
What I love about the Arab culture is now you can and I can honestly call each other friends, right?
Of course.
Right?
Of course.
I love
Yes.
that.
Well, I mean, we're cousins. We can't deny. We're two tribes of the Middle East that are still working their differences.
We're trying to work it out. We'll figure it out eventually, right?
We will. We will.
I believe in that as well. And that's why I wanted to have you on.
Be'ezrat Hashem.
Amen. Amen. Chazaku Baruch.
Yeah.
I want to tell you too, on behalf of my people, not all of them, but many of them, and I would argue most of them, are very grateful for what you are doing. Because we understand what the trials and tribulations are of your efforts and of your work, and how you put yourself out there on behalf of course, your people. Of course, you want to strengthen your land, as anybody would, but also for the Jewish people and for Israel. And for that, as I said at the top of this show, you make me, Mustapha, feel just a little bit less alone in the world.
I'm very glad.
And
I'm very glad. That's very touching.
Thank you. And I hopefully that I am doing the same for you. And again, I wish you well in all your endeavors. When you go to Israel, remind me, have you been in Israel?
I've been to Israel twice. The last time I was in Israel was a year and a half ago. It was
Okay.
during the war. Yeah, yeah. But yes, I
I'd
had
be
the chance.
I'd be more than happy to introduce you to some of my friends and contacts. I think they would appreciate you very much.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for reaching out and inviting me to your show. I wish that one day I will be able to invite you to my home to
Thank
meet my family. I will be very honored also to invite you to come to Morocco
Thank
to
you.
meet my mom and my siblings and my friends and my community in Morocco. They will love to meet with you.
And vice versa. And by the way, I'm really good with mothers. Really good. They like no, they like me. Ladies and
I'm sure she will.
gentlemen, you're invited to my home as well.
Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank everybody for listening and for watching. I often talk about what one can take out of these interviews because my podcast is predicated on paying homage to humankind through inspirational interviews. What one can take out of this interview with Mustapha is strength, is courage, is bravery, is the wherewithal to be challenged, the idea of diving into debate and sustaining yourself while you're within it and being open to somebody convincing you otherwise, and perhaps you doing the same for them. So please follow this man on his journey because it's a sacred one. Until we meet again, I want to once again thank everyone. My mother of blessed memory used to say in Yiddish, Sei gesund, which means go in peace and health. Thank you once again.